This podcast is rated E for explicit.
What are you afraid of? Why do you stay hidden in the shadows from your many shades of gray? What do you ask God for when you kneel down to pray? When you get tired of hiding, but lack the courage for the deciding.
What do you want from me? You know, it's not good, whatever it is. You know, my mother told me. You know what I mean? Then you find someone that can be a friend to you.
I'm afraid to be more intimate because I'm afraid of what that's going to feel like.
If a straight man and a straight female are like, that's my best friend, they're like, nah, y'all are doing something, right? Like, you guys have something.
I feel like at times parents may handicap us, putting like their experiences and their influences on their child.
What you described to me is just really, truly loving another person, right? And we're not allowed to do that with other boys.
Join us for this series that explores the many shades we hide in, the many desires we fight, the many things we love that we never love in the light. The very thing you've been afraid to say.
I think I told my mom once by text, I love you, and she was like, thank you.
You may.
and so I was like, that's not happening ever again.
Very well hear it here.
Conversations like these are so important for us to have.
In our new series.
Society likes to correlate emotions as a feminine trait. And when it's a feminine trait, you're like, I'm a guy, I'm a man. I don't have that, right?
I don't care. No, I'm going to cry right now. And I don't care if I get yelled at or whatever. Crying is about to happen.
The Shades of Bay. You met me in the midst of many things. Shedding skin, sprout wings. Looking at life as a spiritual being through a human lens. Having conversations with God about so many things. This show is your invitation. The poet God is the conversation. Picking up where we left off with the Toxic Nipple, which is the first episode of this series, we take a turn to navigate the complexities of same-sex relationships that transcend and challenge traditional definitions. Untitled, undefined, with both parties often not inclined to put a label or bring what is unspoken to the table. Are they uninterested or unable to dissect the desires they have that society has told them to reject? Or are those desires linked to bonds they are more inclined to protect? This is a journey through what is often unseen, yet felt deeply at the core of one's being. Join us as we take a look at the nuanced experiences that have shaped the bonds that break the boundaries we make. Calvin and I have bonded over unpacking a lot of the relationships that he and I have had growing up, being the type of men that we grew to be. I was thinking about a particular connection, one of my more impactful friendships that I've had in my young adulthood. Chris was a good friend of mine who I connected with over cars. At first, we both, are kind of car enthusiasts and so forth, met at a car wash, washing our cars, He was one of those friendships that when he invited me to hang out with his other friends, I recognized that, our relationship is very different from your relationship with them, and it reminded me of, gosh, I guess who I am gives these guys permission to be different than they normally show up. From the outside, some people probably would have thought we were a couple, right? Because he wanted to do everything with me. Like, he wouldn't just come over to eat. He wanted to go shopping with me, to buy the groceries, because he just enjoyed hanging out, right? And it was interesting too, because I didn't even project that expectation on him.
Golden retriever.
But do you think, so I'm going to ask you in this sense, do you think, right? Because I think sometimes people see us, right? This external thing, and there are traits that they see in you, and sometimes they connect because they want that same sort of freedom, right? Yeah. So these connections and maybe why you keep engaging with people in this sense is because they want to feel that freeness of whatever it took for you to get there. They want to feel that same level of freeness.
I remember when I left New York, 17, I was living in New York for 5 years. And so that community and that church, we had, the relationships there were what they were, right? By the time I had gotten to that age, I was, a little bit more as free as I was. So I'll put it that way. But it was like one of the minister's kids came up to me. It was going to be the last time that he was going to see me because we were having one of those farewell events. And so he said to me, he was like, yo, I just want to tell you that, first of all, I apologize for being a part of that crew that used to kind of bully you and make fun of you and stuff like that. But I always admired you. And he said similar to what you just expressed. He was like, I always wanted to be that. I wanted to be free. I wanted to be free to express myself, and I never could be in my circle. Mm-hmm. But I saw you, and we made fun of you, but we were jealous of you too. With Chris, our friendship had become, like I said, this kind of thing where when it was him and I, it felt like one thing, right? But I remember there were a couple girls who were coming into town that used to go to school with him, and he was with me at the time when one of them hit him up. They were like, "Hey, where you at? We're in town. We want to, just say hello." He told them, give him an address, and they came by. And one of the girls said, "So how do you know Akil?" And he was like, "Oh yeah." He told a completely different story.
Right. A made up story.
Yeah. From how we met, from how, what the nature of our friendship was, whatever, all of it. And he told, and I was just sitting there like, because I was literally right there.
You were learning the same time that they were about how you guys became friends.
Yeah. And so that was the first time that I realized that he had some discomfort on
your relationship, and how it transpired.
Yeah. But it was other people's perspective, because it wasn't that he had a problem with your relationship, because then he would have never been the way he was. But it was other people's perspectives on what this relationship could be.
That is true.
My thing is, why did he even invite them over? Because at some point you would have to explain this relationship.
Well, he felt safe until that question was asked.
And I love, because that topic of safety thing, because your original question about them wanting to have that, I believe that that's 100% true, but I believe that only comes out when they feel they're in an environment to be safe, right? And I feel like what you just described to me is that he was safe with you, right? And whether that's in the company of other people, it's great, but it felt like it's kind of otherworldly. It's only comfort because the other people are just outside in the world. They're not part of the same world.
Before I moved to Atlanta, I remember telling him, hey, I'm moving. I was like, it would be good to hang out, and do some stuff before I leave. I only heard from him, I think it was like 3 days before I was to make this trip. And I was so angry with him about that. But I realized that when he showed up, he had a gift. He wrote a letter. Then it kind of clicked to him. The reason I didn't hear from him is because he was going through something about what he felt this loss was going to be, that I wasn't going to be here. And I didn't know that he was going through it. I didn't know he was going through it because he hadn't expressed that. I remember reading the letter and what he said in it. He talked about not knowing how to express these feelings. He said, I just wanted to do something so that you knew that even if it wasn't well articulated, you saw that there was an effort. One of my friends said, no, he straight up fell in love with you. He just couldn't tell you. He came from a space where he wouldn't have been able to say that to you. I could see that could have been, that could have been some truth to that. We'll be right back with a different perspective on bonds that break boundaries.
Someone asked me if I were actually wanting to engage in sexual activity, and I said no, which was a lie because I was horny. I just didn't want to have sex with that person.
Sometimes we lie because it's tradition.
But who wants to be, who
That's
honestly wants to be with a man who you don't respect enough to tell the truth?
Other times because the truth has denied us. It's permission, giving way to lies of omission.
There is a reason why I don't get on Zoom calls until they know me. I mean, in terms of like showing my face. That is that lie of omission. I need for them to respect me by my voice first before they say, oh, it's a black guy.
Because we won't dare compromise our position.
That is the lie that religiosity, not religion, religiosity has told people.
That's such BS.
Sometimes a lie is born of contrition for a truth that's a thorn in our ambitions.
I've never in my old days used to be the type of person who wanted to be lied to. But this is one of those cases where lie to me.
Listen to episodes 10 and 11, season 3. Sometimes a lie and lie to me, as we unpack the many reasons why we lie. I probably lie most with lies of omission. And I don't feel bad about it. And after you follow the Poet God podcast on your favorite podcasting app, a quick search of the Poet God on Twitter and Instagram will connect you to just what we have on tap. And if you're not that social, at thepoetgod.com, we got your back.
Can I give you from my perspective?
Sure.
So, as being, I hate the thought of labels and so on, but as being a woman that is attractive to women, I have had times that I wouldn't be close to guys because I would hate if a guy tried to hit on me, right? Because I'm like, do I give off to you that this is what I want, right? So I wouldn't do that. Right. And only in spaces where I could feel comfortable enough, again, in that same kind of context, I could let my guard down. I would be fine. So like, if you notice in a lot of spaces, I don't hug men because I don't want a guy to be like, oh, you feel so good. Like, what the hell are you like, what are you talking about? Right? Don't say that.
But it has happened. I've seen it.
No, but yeah, like, don't say that. Like, I've had guys hit on me and I'm like, this is really uncomfortable. I don't like this. Please don't do that. Don't even talk about any of my body parts. Don't do that. Right? So it's like, I don't normally do it. Most of the men, like now I've gotten like, whatever, right? But most men that I would have hugged when I was younger would be gay men. Simply because I'm like, you're not going to hit on me. Right? I'm cool. So I say that as on the opposite side of the perspective that there is comfort. If you feel like, hey, I may not be attracted to these, like me being gay, I'm not attracted to men. I don't want a guy to hit on me. So I'm not going to be comfortable to give you a hug. You want to say hi, I'm going to give you a dab. Like, what's up, man?
Well, it's a weird position when your love language is physical touch and you want to reach out and be in the spaces with people that you're closest to. A lot of people misinterpret that, as sexual. And so for someone who may not have any interest in sex whatsoever, they just want the comfort of being next to someone, they just don't understand it.
Yeah. But I as I've learned, some people enjoy the attention from the same. They'll know somebody is gay and they enjoy the attention. They're like, I know you want this.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not even about just you want this. It is more about I know you want to be close to me,
yes.
Right? And it could be for whatever reason, because it doesn't always have to be sexual. True. But the attention is the thing that they're craving more than anything else. And I've been in situations where I've hung around people who truly they're the ones who need the hug, right? But they don't necessarily know how to ask for it, and so it becomes a game of manipulation.
Yeah, so it's like manipulating intimacy to get what you want,
right?
Which is a friendship or attention or validation.
Listen, we've talked extensively at work about stuff.
Yes.
I would need you to define stuff for me right now.
Right.
There's just certain people that attract attention and people want to be in their space. And Keel is one of those people, people enjoy his company. They understand him. They feel comfort with him. And so they gravitate towards him.
Yeah.
And, being next to a person that gravitates people, you're standing there like, you don't see this? You don't see the lecherous look?
You gotta flip the head.
The lecherous look, that's the word that some people are like giving off to you. And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't know.
So this is one of the things that he and I bonded on, because I'm that guy. Because I'm over here like, la, 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 whatever's going on. Hey, my place is always open. Yeah, sit on my bed next to me. Right, and so I understand what you're saying is that for some of us, the aura that we have is really just about being welcoming. Right.
100%.
And so we don't always see what's going on the other side. Really, everybody's well, right?
Yes.
I don't make any claims on your intention. Right. And I think that sometimes we probably should need people like you to point this out.
Yes, yeah.
Do you wonder sometimes if it's if you behave you're oblivious almost intentionally but unconsciously so, because you don't want to misinterpret a situation?
Part of it, you're right. There is the part of me is like, don't have any expectations. But what I've learned is that sometimes it's actually much more about me, right? Whereas I need to act oblivious because that's a person who I might actually let too far in, right? And so what I do is I basically just turn off those emotions, so there's nothing happening at all, right? And it is actually very intentional, because I actually had to think about it. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, this person's trying to hang out with you. You're like, no. And it's very intentional. I had to realize I am the one who has the problem, not them. Right. And that was a big moment for me to really just, as part of my own self-reflection, to understand where my barriers are. Right.
I think for myself, I caught myself. One of my best friends always tells me, she'll be like, she liked you, right? I'm like, no, she didn't. I'm just a cool person. Like, why wouldn't you want to? Right. But that was in my mind. And I think, like, for me, because I'm attracted to more feminine women, it's hard. Like, I think that a lot of people, if you look at me you automatically assume that I'm gay, right? I have short hair. I dress like a guy. So I carry myself in a way that people are going to make this assumption. But if I like a woman that outwardly presents as a woman, you're like, she can be straight, right? So if you don't tell me straight up, hey, I like you, I'm gonna be like, she likes guys, right? That is just the natural thought process that I have. So I'm going to be like, oh, you just want to hang out because it's cool. Like,
yeah, this is where he and I bonded, right? Because he and I have had those experiences where, like you're expressing, you know, it's always that area, that gray area.
It reminds me of the question you asked earlier, Carla, about, you know, the idea of them wanting to be in that same level of freedom, right?
Right.
Because it comes back to that. For me, it's like a lot of that time, it's not only just the safe space, but they really are searching for that, right? If everyone, you know, I know you told the story about Chris, but I have a very different story of how that, like my mom lived across the street from this family for years, right? I never lived there because they got married after I was 21. So I'm like, whatever, right? So I'm hanging out over there with them. Guy from across the street, we start chatting, and I go, "Oh, you live here?" I'd never met him before, right? We start hanging out. He came to my place. My roommates were like, "Who is this dude?" I'm like, "A neighbor from my mom's house," right? We got so close to the point where we started this exchange, right? I would take him to a gay club, and he would take me to a straight club, right? And it was really cool because there was never any pretense about anything. We just were two buddies hanging out, showing each other. You're basically sharing each other's worlds, right? But I think one of the most important times to me that told me how comfortable he was with just life, right? Is we were in a club and in one of the gay clubs, and I was trying my best to stay on the dance floor, but he's like, "No, we got to go get new drinks." He grabs me, pulls me along, right? But when we went to the straight club, I'm over there like, and he goes, "You need to come on because I can't grab your hand in here." So it told me he was super comfortable with that, but he also understood the rules. And he also acknowledged them, right? Without it having anything to do with our relationship, he was just like, "You know, I can't hold your hand in this place. Come on, just get with the program." But I love that because it was a great example of people, despite whatever we're told we're supposed to be with each other, just were like, whatever, we're just going to hang out, right? You know, and I still love the exchange because that one was very fun because there were places that I never would have visited on my own because they just weren't on my radar, right?
Do you have questions or stories you'd like to unpack with us? Go to thepoetgod.com and tell us all about it. We'll be right back after these messages. Looks of lustful means, clothes bursting away at the seams.
I can stand up, get naked in front of you right now, doesn't mean you have to touch me.
The fantasies that are the makings of wet dreams.
I want people to watch me because I love the attention component of it.
And the blinds that seem to invite you to look behind the scenes.
Just because she's an exhibitionist, he's an exhibitionist, that don't mean I need to go up there and put my hands all on him.
But look, don't touch.
Because I've been in these situations, I'm just gonna fuck it. I'm gonna tell it like it is.
Thank you very much.
If they are presenting something to me, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be thinking, you should have closed your window, or you should have closed your blinds. Why didn't you do that?
And if you find that to be hell,
everybody could be looking. I'm looking.
You may be under the exhibitionist spell.
And I'm going to keep on looking.
I was at the gym, and a guy came into the bathroom, stood next to me, and opened his clothes, which was an open invitation to watch. And I was like, oh, okay, right? I'll watch this for a second.
The longer you dwell, the effects may not be subtle.
His expectation is like, yes, I'm doing something private out in public, but I expect you to have some kind of respect for me and not look. And he's going to find that a lot of people don't have that kind of respect. Not for themselves and not for you.
Sorry to pop your bubble. Blame it on the rebuttal.
You're in a public place. You meet up with somebody and someone else walks up and starts, doing whatever they do while watching you. If I tell you, like, hey, nah, we good, go somewhere else, the consent to watch has been declined. You should go away because now you're a voyeur.
Being in a public space and expecting somebody to actually honor your privacy, right. I cannot imagine how that is a reasonable expectation.
Exactly, because what I'll do is you typically go, I'm going to call the police, and let's see if they think it's a public space.
When you see people do something, I think a lot of times now your reaction to it is like, they want me to watch. They're obviously doing this for my attention.
Great.
And so now your attitude is not like, I should feel bad for watching this. Your attitude is now like, entertain me. What do you got for me? Show me. And
for $9.99 a month. We took a 3-episode voyage where we explored our thoughts, feelings, and personal experiences with voyeurism, exhibitionism, and the seas of gray that lie in between.
Like, you're consciously leaving your windows open, and at any given time, people could just stand there and look and watch what you're doing.
In the end, some of us were wet.
Look, I walked in the room and people were already naked.
While others
so I was like,
were full
this is what's going on.
of steam.
Yes, I don't know you. I am spying on you, but
I know you.
I've seen you do this like 4 times.
Listen to looks of lustful means, then the exhibitionist spell, and finally, the rebuttal. Listen in that order. Episodes 2, 3, and 4. Season 5. Because it's quite the ride. To look or not to look. Press play while you decide.
So you obviously want my participation. How can I help? You want my eyeballs on it. You want to hear me go, oh no, he did it. So, you obviously want me to participate. And that's the danger of what you're doing when you're inviting people to look and look again and look and look again.
And after you follow the Poet God podcast on your favorite podcasting app, a quick search of the Poet God on Twitter and Instagram will connect you to just what we have on tap. And if you're not that social, at thepoetgod.com, we got your back. At this juncture in my life, I have been a little bit more comfortable and flexible with allowing whoever the person is in the relationship with. Listen, I know what you identify as, but if you need to be in this gray area because this is what you need from me in this friendship, then I don't have any issue with that. If there's gonna be an issue, it's gonna be your issue. But please don't be abusive to me, or don't be unkind to me for allowing you what you need just because you can't say it or articulate it or whatever. And once conduct themselves in a way that honors me, then I'm good. I've learned to be flexible that way, because I do realize that a lot of my straight male friendships are like that. And like I said, I don't think that because of who I am, I don't expect that to be any different. I don't expect it to be any, but I do find it, I'm fascinated, by it. And I'm saddened also, by it, because I also see their struggle.
Well, do you feel like that has something to do with age? Because here you are as a young person, 17, you've experienced a real closeness with someone that just happened really quick and really fast, and it was very easy. now you're older and you're trying to establish relationships with people. And it's not that way. It's not quick. It's not easy because everybody's got their barriers now. They've had things happen to them in their lives where they're just kind of like, I'll let you get but so far. And then I'll test you to see if I can open this door.
It's so tough, right? Because I think that there's a fine line. I think that there is a fine line because they may have this relationship now where you can be comfortable to do that, right? Yes. Because I can, with my heterosexual male friends, I can joke on stuff with them that I know that they won't take sexual because it's like, there's no chance in hell, right? But I can have that because we have that relationship established, right? So they may have that established. Like, it's like, hey, let me just throw out here, this is what I am. Doesn't mean anything, but I just want you to know. So it's a joke of, this is what I would say to my friends normally.
Yeah, but for some people, they're taking it as like, wow, really? You trust me with that information? You know? And they may take it as a more of a sign of more closeness than than you're intending it to be.
But I was also thinking, once you basically bring them into your world, they can let down their guard even more. So that also helps to build some of that intimacy too.
But there's some people that want to, you know, knock at your boundary. And there's some people that just want to like, sail right over it.
That's true. And I think some people enjoy that because maybe while they're also pushing your boundaries, they're pushing theirs too.
True.
You know how we were talking about the rules and things like, typical rules. You grow up as a little black boy, you're expected to find a little black girl, right? I think that my mom knew pretty early that wasn't about to happen for me, right? But I was like, whatever, right? I never thought about it. I go on a plane, going to visit some colleges, and why at 18 years old or 17 years old, I am staring at this girl. Like, literally, I was like, I can't keep my eyes off her. So we get to campus. We're both going to the same college for the same thing. We're chatting with each other, doing our things. We both decide to go there. And why is it that we're 3 doors down from each other on the same floor out of the entire campus?
On a plane, exactly.
So yes, I would say it was something like that. But it was a discovery for me because I think a lot of times when we're developing our identity, at some point we think we got it set. So why is it that within a few months she's in my bed?
Yeah.
And 4 years later, she's in my home living with me.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think even with that, and I'm sorry to cut you, I just feel like sexuality is a spectrum. And I think that people just see it so definitive. Like, you're either heterosexual, you're gay. And if you don't know, maybe you're right in the middle. And I'm like, no, it's like, it's all of this, right? It's all of this. And you can maybe lean a little bit more to the right. You can maybe be a little bit more on the left, or you can be far left, but it's this whole spectrum. And I think that our difficulty sometimes is trying to fit into this box. And that's why we question ourselves and question all these other things around us because of that.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I 100% agree with you. But my challenge then was because I thought I had figured out who I was.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, I'm saying, like, when you open yourself up to deep connections with people, sometimes it may stretch what you think that you will allow or what you think you want to do. You know, the right person can push you in a direction that you were like, oh my gosh, I didn't think I would go this way, you know? And for some people that's scary. They don't want another person to have that influence over them. So they'll be like, nope, no intimacy like that.
And I've heard of people say, like, I was only gay for that one person.
That one person had a connection to them that allowed them to feel like I can stretch into this territory.
Or in Calvin, I was straight for that one person.
Yeah.
You know,
but then, maybe then the fear of like, this isn't who I want to be. You know, you're taking me to a place, I don't want to be. And they get scared.
Well, you can't rig the willing.
I want to add one last thing to that because there is a bigger twist to the story that I don't think, and it really goes into your spectrum thing. I think that as much as it was an experience for me, that whole thing about me being an open, safe zone for other people, turns out she was actually lesbian.
Wow.
But our intimacy made us really connected.
Yeah.
And it helped her to be comfortable to have somebody in a space where she could learn and understand. And she's now been with the same woman for the last 20 years.
That's awesome.
I grew up in a community of men who it seems were only a fraction of themselves. Men who were traumatized by the sometimes brutal ideas of manhood, masculinity, and what male sexuality should be, none of which leave room for even the basic needs of humanity. Instead, men who needed something so basic as to be held couldn't form the words to even break that spell, governed by the rules of a society that has held little room for men with emotional range, intelligence, or depth within their emotional capacity. But many of us have found the courage to rebel and to redefine our identity and support others who also wish to break that spell. And although there are times when the days seem too long, the nights too lonely, and answers to prayers seem to stall, even when hearts have walls that seem like 10 feet tall, love seems to find a way, even in hearts that allow it only to exist in shades of gray. I'm Mikhail Johnson, and this is The Poet God. Thank you for listening.